Hello my creative friends and welcome back. In this lesson we're going to take it to the next level. Now you've got the basics down in Midjourney. We're going to go through some of the most advanced features it has to offer. We'll be looking at using parameters to control the algorithm in Midjourney. This will give you the ability to increase or decrease the amount of stylization in images, use different versions of the algorithm, and much more. So let's get straight into it. Come back into Midjourney. So the first parameter we're going to look at today is using different versions of the algorithm. Now this gives you the opportunity to use two other versions of the algorithm. The first one I'm going to show you can be better for macro images and textures. So let's start off with our standard imagine command, /imagine, and then for the prompt, pick something you'd like to work with today. Anything you like. I'm going to go with a portrait of a watermelon. Now, for this parameter, the code you need to use is --v followed by a number 1, 2, or 3. Now, by default, the algorithm that's used is number 3. So if you want to use algorithm 3, you don't need to type anything in. But if you'd like to use algorithm 1, just type 1. And then you can send that into Midjourney. Now let's compare that with using algorithm 2. So I want you to put in your same prompt again. But this time, type in --v space 2. And we'll finally compare that with the standard algorithm. For that, you don't need to insert an extra command, so just type in your prompt. So now we've got our 3 images using the 3 different algorithms available on Midjourney. This image was created using the first algorithm, which is V1, which can be better for textures. As you can see, it's pretty abstract. It perhaps hasn't created such a consistent composition related to the content we might be expecting. The second is the version 2. You can see here that it's definitely got a more consistent composition compared to the first one, starting to actually add in some features of a face to a watermelon. And finally, here is the default version 3 of the algorithm. For me, this produces the best results in most circumstances, and generally I would suggest using this unless you're really playing around with macro and textures. So I'm also going to suggest that you explore using this algorithm with a texture. So let's try creating a new prompt with the algorithm version 1 and putting in a texture-based prompt. I'm going to put in neutral animal print pattern texture. And we're going to let that load. And whilst that is loading, we're also going to ask Midjourney to repeat this with the same prompt, but we're going to ask it to use the standard algorithm. So now we've got our animal prints from the 3 different algorithms. This is version 2 of the algorithm, and you can see that the result is not of the highest quality. I've upscaled one of these and you can see that, yeah, it's improving, but the detail is lacking. This is version 1 of the algorithm that does sometimes work better with textures and patterns like this. And you can see in this case, it has outputted a more interesting, intricate and detailed pattern than the version 2. We've upscaled one of these as well, and you can see that it's done a decent job with the V1 of the algorithm. Now here's the default algorithm. And you can say that the composition, the visual interest of these images is definitely higher than both of the other algorithms. The detail is not as high as version 1 of the algorithm, but the overall output is more aesthetically pleasing. And you can see from the upscaled version here. So that is how to use different versions of the algorithm. --v and then either 1, 2 or leave it for the default algorithm. The next modifier we're going to introduce is using the HD algorithm. Now this can add more detail, but the problem with it is it can reduce the consistency of the composition that you get. So if you put in a prompt, anything you like for this example, and we're just going to send that prompt straight to Midjourney. Then I want you to type in imagine and put in exactly the same prompt again, but this time I want you to add the command --HD. Now, one thing to bear in mind when using the HD algorithm is that it does take longer to process the images, and because it's taking longer, it means that it will cost you more to generate images using the HD algorithm. You can see that I put these images in at about the same time, and this one is taking almost twice as long to finish its generation inside of Midjourney. But let's take a look at the first portrait of a happy man generated by Midjourney, and we can compare that with the second portrait, and you can see that already the definition and the detail on the images is much higher. We can also compare that the output is different, that the different algorithm has generated some quite contextually different outputs. So the HD algorithm is really good if you don't mind spending more money and are looking for a more detailed image. The next command we're going to look at is called uplight, and this generally refers to upscaling light, and if you add that in at the beginning of your variation, you will then be able to upscale the images in a light version, so it will upscale them without so much detail. So if I put in flowers -- and then the word uplight. So once you have your full grid of images generated, you can upscale these as usual. But the difference here is that you will notice when you've upscaled it, it will say it's upscaled light. And what this does is it will upscale it with less detail than usual and keep it much more close to the original image that you're upscaling. As sometimes when you upscale an image, it can get distorted or changed quite heavily. Now, why might you want to use uplight? Well, one reason is it's very good for things with smooth surfaces. So anything with a smooth surface, such as a face, where you want to have good clean skin texture, it's really good for. So I'll show you that here with a portrait that I have just generated, and you can see it generating here. Another good use for uplight is that it's faster to upscale images than using the standard upscaling. So we can see here with this upscaled portrait that the skin texture of the face is very nice and smooth, almost airbrushed. So this is one good way to use uplight. So the next set of parameters we're going to explore together are to do with seeds, and Midjourney defines a seed as the random starting noise used in the beginning of image generation. So it's a number that helps to define the starting point when it generates new images. And what we can do with seeds is we can control how similar or different the variations within the grid that we get are, and also between generations or between asking Midjourney to use the same prompt. So let me show you how that works. So we'll come into Midjourney, and for the prompt this time, I want you to use anything you like. I'm today going to use Cosmic Planet Ocean Voyage. I encourage you to be creative and to use something a little bit abstract, just to see what happens. Now we send that once. The second time, we'll use the same prompt, but we're going to play around with the seed. And to do that, we're going to put in -- seed, and then a space, and then a 4-digit number. I'm going to go with 0787. Great, so now we've got two versions of this prompt. We've got this, the first version, and here the second version. Now, to illustrate what the seed does is we'll re-roll both of these. So we click on the rotational arrows at the end of the commands, and we sit back and wait. So now we've got our 4 images that have been generated using Midjourney. 2 of them are using the same seed and 2 of them are not. So this is an image that was not using a seed command, and this was the same prompt re-rolled without a seed command either. And what you can see here is that they are vastly different in the content and style that they have been exported in. Now, if we look at the two that we used with a seed, this is the first one, and this is the second one, you can see that they have kept a lot more consistency between the generations. So if you have a prompt or a style that you're looking to use, if you found an area that you are really digging deep into and you want to create a consistent, expansive collection based around this, then seeds can be really powerful for getting that consistent collection together. So the next command to do with seeds that I'm going to tell you about is same seed. So if we use the same prompt again, Cosmic Planet Ocean Voyage, and you type in -- same seed, all together as one word, and then a 4-digit number, and send that into Midjourney. And so what this is going to do is it's going to keep consistency within the grid, which means all 4 images are going to be much more consistent. And here we have it. Here is the same seed example, and we can see that the 4 images generated by Midjourney here are very similar. They all have a horizon about 40% of the way up the canvas, and they have a similar composition of a planet or moon hovering over the top of this ocean. There are slight adjustments in the content. This one, the moon is more of a star that's very small, and on this one it's included a little vessel sailing towards the horizon.